Welcome to Sustainably Feeding a World of 9 billion people, and other brief commentary of what was, what may be, and what we need to do. Imagine a world without food. Imagine producing food in a land of a changing environment. How we as a global population define our food and what we pay for our food varies. Currently, the world population is 7 billion. By 2050, that world population will be over 9 billion. In order to feed that population, we need to increase food production by 70%, with less land, less water, and less resources. And we want food to be safe and secure for all peoples. So how can we do that? We need to link human, animal, and environmental health. So how do we do this? If we are to link humans, animals, and the environment in health, we need to look at where we have been and what we have become. Let me take you on a journey. In the beginning of agriculture, humankind were hunters and gatherers, and wild animals and plants were scavenged for the nourishment of our bodies, for clothing, for fuel, and other needs of survival. This was the first era of agriculture, hunting and gathering. The second era of agriculture began 10,000 years ago, when humankind created settlements with newly cultivated plants and domestication of animals. Humans began to grow their own food, plant and animal. Animals were used for locomotion, for food, for wealth, and for manure to be used as fertilizer for newly cultivated plants. With the domestication of animals, there was an animal-human bond, an ancient contract of where we take care of animals and they will take care of us. In the early 1700s, the steam engine was created, and humankind entered the third era of agriculture, or the steam power and fossil fuel era. In this era, humankind dependency on animals for locomotion decreased in our modern world, and there was a great dependency on animals as a food source. The end of the Second World War brought in the advent of the fourth era, or intensification era. In this era, there was a great dependency on technology. Animals were seen by humankind as disposable resources in large-scale food production systems. Use of technology increased animal efficiency to create a cheaper food supply. Much of society today feels that at this time the ancient contract between humankind and animals was broken. In the fourth era, there was a great need for food, and leaders as Norman Borlaug, who is known as the father of the Green Revolution, are recognized from preventing 1 billion people from starving. The introduction of hybrid seed corn, high-yielding cereal grains, synthetic fertilizers, and irrigation techniques became a catalyst for other new technologies. And now today, humankind is leaving the fourth era and entering the fifth era, or what is already known as the quality of life era. As we enter this fifth era, public concern is growing over the ancient contract between humankind and animals. Fewer people have a contact with farm animals, those that are used for food, and for many, the only known animal association is with companions, the dog, the cat, and for many, the horse. The associated plant paradigm follows a similar path to animals, as the public is concerned with plant selection for food, rediscovering plants, and associated health benefits. In this quality of life era, there are concerns in the increase of environmental pollution due to intensive animal management, food safety along with human health concerns, and a deep concern for the treatment of animals. It is felt by many that the ancient contract was broken, with humankind no longer maintaining the balance. The outcry of society is echoing across the world as the values society holds dear are changing. Battle lines are being drawn between what is perceived as the traditional production of food that has fed the world when it was greatly needed, and new, the organic, the approach to production of food. So here we are, entering the fifth era, the quality of life era. Our population is growing, and in 2015 we need to sustainably feed 9 billion people a safe and secure food supply. So how are we going to do that? To do this, we need all kinds of minds, different ways of thinking, collaboration between disciplines, and outside-of-the-box innovative problem solvers. Without this approach, we will not be able to feed a world population of 9 billion people.
Okay, I'm Harvey Blackburn. I'm with the National Animal Germplasm Program, which is part of the Agricultural Research Service and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Our mission here is essentially to conserve genetic resources and see that they're utilized well throughout our livestock production systems in the United States. Genetic resources offer us an opportunity to contribute to feeding a growing human population, what's going to be really key about utilizing those genetic resources is going to be the way that we use them in combination with various technologies that are going to have to be developed. Clearly, as we look toward trying to feed this growing group of people that will be joining us on the planet, will be really a need to move towards more highly industrialized type systems while we often think of those systems as being environmentally unfriendly, they can be made sustainable, and that's what we'll have to do to also address issues of water quality and making sure that we have the type of feed efficiency that we're going to need in our livestock production systems. Probably when you look at the workforce that's going to be required for this system, these new challenges that we have, clearly they're going to have to be flexible enough to move across international borders and be comfortable with that. This is probably one area where U.S. agriculture may lag somewhat behind or isn't as aggressive as some of our other counterparts in other countries, and therefore should probably be a focus if we're really going to be a competitive factor in this new marketplace. As I mentioned, why we'll have these global climate change issues to confront, and I guess I'm rather optimistic that we can change our production systems to meet those challenges if we need to. For example, we are already seeing livestock producers in this country starting to move their livestock, the type of livestock they raise, to fit into a more challenging type environment, a lower input environment than what we might normally consider in some areas of the U.S. So I think there's ample opportunities for us to make these changes, to grow our technologies, to make them more robust and efficient under these, or to meet these coming challenges that we'll be facing in the next 20 years or so.
How to make the most milk, the most, or the crop, the most. We got to start looking at what is the optimal thing to do. We're pushing that dairy cow more and more to where we're having a hard time breeding her because she's putting everything into her milk. And then she might only last for 2 years of milking. It takes you 2 years to grow the heifer, and then we're only going to use it for milking for 2 years? I don't know how they do their accounting. Maybe a better thing to be doing would be back off just a little bit on milk production. I'm not suggesting going back to the 60s style cow, but you back off just a little bit, and then you can milk her for 4 years. Like, what is optimal, not maximum? I think that's one of the things we need to be thinking about. We also need to be thinking about things a lot more in a whole systems way of looking at things. I've worked for years on animal handling, and I used to think when I was in my 20s and my 30s that I could fix everything with equipment. If I could just build the magic system, everything would work fine. But I realized it's got to be operated correctly. The management is the other half of the system. You've got to have both the equipment and the techniques and the management to go along with it. Now, a lot of people will ask, what is something that's truly sustainable? Well, it's something that on a long-term basis you can keep doing it. But there's also an ethical component. And there's some people that raise agricultural products, it could be crops or livestock, and they kind of go, well, I just produce the product about the emotional issues. So ethical component to things. And the millennial generation is getting really interested in that. Animal welfare is part of it. Yes, we want to have things that are efficient, but if it makes it so animal welfare is totally horrible and you make cattle lame doing it, that's not acceptable. Now, there's some people out there that think, well, we just shouldn't use any animal protein. Let's just get rid of all the livestock. Well, I don't know how you would do organic agriculture without livestock. Also, there's an awful lot of land in the whole entire world where the only thing you could raise on that land for food is grazing animals of some type. Cattle, buffalo, sheep, goats, some of the grazing animals. And I think we need to get a whole lot better in pasture management That's something I've gotten really interested in that. Also, we need to stop the war going on between conventional ag or big ag and the niche markets, the organic, and some of the alternative ag, because I think they've got things to learn from each other. Maybe in the future we're going to be combining some of the best of both. You know, they need to stop throwing rocks at each other. I talked a lot about the world needing different kinds of minds and different kinds of thinking. You know, there's some people very good at all the mathematical things. There's other people that are really good at visual thinking, like me. So when we're doing a scientific study, where I'm really good is looking at the methods of the experiment. Because you may have two experiments coming out with totally different results that are opposite. That may be due to the methods. They didn't say what breed of animal they were using. You got other people that are really good at statistics. You need to have both in the world. And let me give you an example where there was a failure of the different kinds of minds to work together. And that is the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The mathematicians could design a nuclear reactor. I can't design a nuclear reactor. But there's absolutely no way they would have taken the emergency generators for running those really important emergency cooling pumps and put all that equipment in a non-waterproof basement when you live next to the sea. If they had just had some submarine doors and some sump pumps, we would not have had that horrendous accident. See, this is where you need the visual thinking minds, you need the more mathematical minds, and you need the word minds working together to find solutions. And when they work together right, they can complement each other.
Hi, my name's Henry Thompson. I work in the College of Agricultural Sciences and I direct the Cancer Prevention Laboratory. And how would I feed the 9 billion people that are going to exist in the world in just a few years? I suggest the following. Responsible management of the calories available to us today. If there are about 6 billion people, this is the back of the envelope calculations, to require about 2,000 calories per day. That means we're making available to the human population 12 trillion calories per day. You can find the literature that indicates that 45% of all the food that is produced is wasted. 3 billion people more will be, oh, by the way, that food produced that's wasted, if it's 45% of this, it's about 6 trillion calories. If we're going to go to 3 billion more people that we need to feed at 2,000 calories per day, 6 trillion calories per day. 6 trillion calories, 6 trillion calories. You want a buffer. Overweight and obesity. Approximately 65% of the people in the world are overweight or obese. That's about 4 billion people. If we estimate to maintain that excess body weight that they have to consume an additional 300 calories that they wouldn't need if they had a normal body weight, 300 calories per day, that's another 1 trillion calories. If we are responsible citizens who reduce waste and live at a body weight appropriate for our height, we could take the available today and feed 9 billion people. That's my solution. Thank you.